And good day to you on this Thursday, September 27th, 2018. Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat. Jim Coyle sitting in. Justin Kalen high atop the crew chief's box as always.
That's right.
Back in from a day up in Bloomington, Indiana. Media day for Indiana basketball, and we'll get to all that. Got a lot to talk about. Guest on the show today, Terry Hutchens, of course, as well as James Kratch, a beat writer for Rutgers. So we'll talk all that as more, but let's get to the headlines first.
All right, here are your headlines for this Thursday, September 27th. Brought to you by Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart, located on Highway 150 in Floyd's Knobs. Make sure you stop in for your hot breakfast, fill your gas tank, or get their daily lunch special. Today for $3.99, Mexican casserole. Mexican casserole. Cubs and Brewers both clinched playoff spots last night. The Cubs now turn their attention to the NL Central title as that's still in reach. Clemson quarterback Kelly Bryant to transfer amid the quarterback change this week. And Rockies right-handed pitcher German Marquez tied an MLB record last night with 8 straight strikeouts to start the ballgame. Those are your headlines for this Thursday, September 27th, brought to you by Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart, located on Highway 150 in Floyd's Knobs. $3.99 today. Mexican casserole is your lunch special.
I thought you said that, but I wasn't positive.
I was trying to kind of figure out what Mexican casserole entails.
I'm kidding. I can figure it out. I don't know exactly what it is, but it doesn't matter. I'm just give me a bowl of it. I know it's good. It sounds like it's got to have some meat in it. It may have I don't know if it has jalapenos in it, but I just thought of something. Can you imagine like a Mexican meatloaf, but not cooked all the way through like they used to run the meatloafs with?
I don't like meatloaf, period.
Oh, but Mexican meatloaf would be great.
I'd be willing to try it.
Yeah, well, speaking of cooking, the cooking is underway for the basketball season up in Bloomington, and I'm sure a few other places, but we weren't there, but we were in Bloomington. Yesterday, IU had media day for IU men's basketball. Got to break out the freshmen, hear from them for the first time as a collective unit, hear from them as a Hoosier for the first time. I got to hear from Archie for the first time in a while. Juwan and the rest of the crew. Got to see them, more importantly, and see the differences physically in them. And ironically, walking around in between Cook Hall and Assembly Hall, I ran into Coach Cliff Marshall. Thanked him for being on the show, of course, and had conversation further about the differences that these programs make and how astonishing it is. Amazing that the differences this doesn't to these athletes.
Yeah, and the cool thing to me talking to Cliff Marshall yesterday was the fact that all the strength and conditioning coaches at IU try to get together every so often just to discuss what they're doing and how maybe what someone else is doing could help the other person. I thought that was neat that as a staff they come together quite often.
Well, I think part of that is because Cliff Marshall can use Dr. Ray as a reference, as a resource.
Sure.
You've got Dave Ballou that he can also use as a resource. They can go back and forth because they're both doing this, but come from different backgrounds. So their information is going to be different. But Dr. Ray is the key point there in the middle. What a great resource it is to have him. But and he talked about how he's glad that Archie puts the importance upon it that he does, which as I told him, I said, well, if you're not, I said, you're behind. Yeah. Man, if there are teams out there that aren't doing, and I know that there aren't.
Well, Cliff told us there were. He said you wouldn't believe how many recruits come in here, and I ask them what they've seen at other schools in terms of their programs and the person responsible for getting them bigger, and he was like, yeah, we never met anybody. We saw the facilities, but we didn't really meet a strength coach.
Yeah, a lot of Louisville, I've noticed, is kind of picking up that pace there with Chris Mack being in place. I've seen a lot of, I think that that the guys in place in Louisville and at Indiana are friends. I think they both may have been at the Bengals together. Possibly that may be true. I have to double check that. But I've noticed that Louisville was starting to send out some tweets like Cliff Marshall does all the time with the progress of his troops in a similar same fashion. So they're doing that there. But if there's teams that aren't doing this, you're behind.
Way behind.
And not just behind, it is going to catch you. It may be something you get away with for a year because of talent, but that will change because Indiana's going to have talent and finely tuned athletes, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible. I mean, you notice the difference in Romeo's physique in and of itself.
Oh my gosh! Right away, you could tell Romeo when he's sitting up there at the podium. His arms were noticeably bigger. I mean, he didn't always have the smallest arms, anyways, but he is so muscular now, and that same goes for a lot of the players. Yesterday, I noticed a noticeable change in them.
Well, and we heard some of them that they're up on the stand talking that I've gained 18 pounds.
Jake Forrester.
Yeah.
Eating 7,500 calories a day.
7,500 calories. That's right. You heard that correctly.
I don't think I've eaten that many calories this week.
That's a lot. It's a lot of eating.
Yeah.
But, but it takes a lot of work to do that.
No doubt.
To get that to that point.
Speaking of Jake Forrester, we got a text into the show, 502-414-1450. If you would like to do the same today, get in on the action. Joker texts in and says, what about Jake Forrester being a high-energy guy? Does that mean we have two McRoberts? Because I would consider McRoberts a high-energy guy. And it's funny that Joker brings that up because I actually said that to you last night on our way home from Bloomington, that I really think Jake Forrester this year is the new Zach McRoberts. I think Zach McRoberts is going to play a lot. I think Forrester's going to come in and be that energy guy when the team needs it.
Yeah, you're probably right. But if that is the case, I'm going to bet you that he's a little bit more athletically inclined version. I don't mean that as a knock on Zach, but, he's not an offensive juggernaut. But I would bet you that we're talking about Forrester, right?
Yeah.
I would bet you that he's not shy from the rim.
No.
Plus, he's a little lankier, a little rangier. I could see him. He can play a lot closer to the basket than Zach McRoberts can under a normal circumstance. If
you take Jake Forrester's hair into consideration, I believe he's the tallest player on the team.
That's why they had to move him in the photo yesterday. Funny taking the pictures. The guys were bantering about. They were trying to get him lined up, and they're, hey, you so-and-so switch here, and then Romeo and Demezi switch, and Romeo's 6'6", Demezi's supposed to be 6'7", but here's the thing. Demezi wears flat hair.
Yeah.
His hair is completely flat.
Gives Romeo the advantage.
Yeah, exactly. So, there you go. So there's your height information. But another thing, the tallest player may be Evan Fitzner.
I think it is Evan Fitzner.
Who had a long, long talk with Evan Fitzner. You can catch a lot of the interviews up on our Facebook site. So go to Indiana Sports Beat Facebook page. All the interviews that I did are there. The press conferences should be there. The post-game report, Drew Davis from Peaks.com joined me. We talked about it. And then, of course, we're going to be up at Hoosier Hysteria on Saturday with more coverage for you. So just stay tuned to Indiana Sports Beat on Facebook. You can also find our rebroadcast /podcast on Facebook, of course, but also on iTunes. Go there, register. You can have it sent to you every time, waiting for you. Leave us a review, please. iHeartRadio, you can also find us there. Spotify, Google Play, or on IndianaSportsBeat.com. So we're easy to find. Talking to Jake, and
from State Farm?
He's wearing khakis. We've got listeners, I don't even know how many states that would. He could probably figure it out, but I'm going to assume a lot since we have listeners in 8 countries, on 3 continents. The era of digital media is amazing.
Yeah,
that our show can carry that far, but we're glad that there's obviously Hoosier fans across the world,
absolutely
seeking information.
Aren't they like the second biggest alumni base?
It's actually, to my knowledge, the largest.
Okay. Even better.
Which is still amazing. I don't know how that is. Just simply because Indiana is it's a bigger school, but it's not a big school.
Well,
Wisconsin's a big school. Yeah. 80,000 people or whatever that school has. That's a lot of people. But make sure you check us out and follow us on those places because we're going to keep you covered all year long, and may have some big surprises coming up for you here in the near future to announce.
Come on,
we're going to wait on that. But and also make sure to take care of the people that take care of us that help bring all this coverage to you. Kentuckiana's Premier Truck Center, whether it's one truck or the entire fleet, Kentuckiana Premier Truck Center has your company covered for sales and service. They've got locations in Louisville and Clarksville to make it easier for you. Specialists in Volvo, Emo, Cummins, and Mack, but they handle any and everything. They'll take care of you. So all of you truck drivers out there listening, make sure you check them out at Kentuckiana's Premier Truck Center. Also, Brooks Roofing, the protection you need when Mother Nature strikes. BrooksRoofingIN.com. They're probably working in your neighborhood right now. Going into winter, definitely want to get that roof taken care of. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice cold beer. Bubba's 33 pizza, burgers, beer. I'm jonesing for some Bubba's. It's time to eat there.
You got to get a burger there.
Yeah, I'm going to have to. And then I'll have to go to Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg.
Get your teeth cleaned.
For over 30 years, Reynolds Family Dentistry has been taking care of Southern Indiana's dental needs. The doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Absolutely. I actually had an appointment yesterday at Reynolds Family Dentistry that I had to reschedule because when I made it, I didn't think. But I've had to do it twice. But I'm one of those people, I told I'm like, my schedule's always fluctuating. I forgot it was media day, and then we got the Peaks Golf Scramble tomorrow and Hoosier Hysteria on Saturday. It's gotten busy.
Yeah.
Football, luckily it's an away game.
Busy time of the year.
Holy moly. Fans going up to Hoosier Hysteria, let us know. Who all's heading up that way? I'd like to hear from you. 502-414-1450 on the text line. If you've got plans to go up, let me know what are you going to do? You going up to tailgate? What are you going to hang out in Bloomington? You going up just for the game? You going straight to Assembly Hall? Just curious to see what's going on with you. So hit us up on that text line, 502-414-1450. Let us know what your plans are for that. We've got to take a break, but we got a big program today on the show. Terry Hutchens, of course, the longtime beat writer for Indiana, and James Kratch from Rutgers beat writer. We're going to get you covered. Stay tuned. Indiana Sports Beat. It's coming right back.
Got a problem with your big truck? Kentuckiana's Premier Truck Center is here to help. For over 30 years, truck drivers and fleet operators have depended on their great service center off I-65 in Clarksville. And now you can get the same level of service, repairs, and part selection that's been offered for generations and save on bridge tolls with their new location on the Outer Loop in South Louisville. They're an authorized Mack, Volvo, and Hino dealer and service center, but they service all makes and models of trucks. Kentuckiana's Premier Truck Center.
This is Jim Coyle. When I'm not on the road covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 on the northeast side of I-65 at Veterans Parkway in Clarksville. Bring the team in for that post-win meal in the family dining area or just meet friends for happy hour. Bubba's has bold burgers, hand-tossed pizzas, mouth-watering wings, and a list of select local craft brewers for the coldest beer in town. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Burgers, pizza, beer. Today's guest is brought to you by Kentuckiana's Premier Truck Center, located 5 miles north of downtown Louisville, just off of I-65 at Veterans Parkway in Clarksville. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle here on Big X Sports Radio, 1450, 96.1, joined by one of my favorite guests, Ken Bykoff from Peaks Podcast. How's it going, Ken?
Going real well. How you doing this morning?
Pretty good, brother. Pretty good. Staying busy. Just trying to get this rain out of here and get on to a better week, hopefully. We got the Peaks Golf Scramble coming up Friday. Are you playing in that?
Yes, I am. I'm looking forward to it. It's been a little while since I golfed, and I wanted to get out to a course so I don't have to make a complete fool out of myself, but rain is not making that possible. So I normally make a fool of myself with a microphone in my face. Now I'm going to do it with a golf club in my hand.
Don't worry, I'll be there doing the same thing and probably a little worse. So all that. A lot going on. How's your book going? We talk periodically, and Ken's been working on a book for some time. He's bringing along about Indiana athletics from the early part of the century up to the 20s, which if you listened before, you'd heard. When you listen to that, that doesn't sound like an interesting story if you just go by the title. But let me tell you, once we started talking and I got into it, I was amazed at the stories came out. It was just I kept wanting more and more. So how is the book coming?
Book's at the publisher. It's supposed to be published in the fall of next year because they want to kind of line it up with the bicentennial of IU. That's a big deal down in Bloomington. But it's at the publisher. It's ready to go. It's been written. And I'm looking really forward to it because, again, it's not about results. It's not about what happened with in this game or that game. It is a storybook of the craziest things that you ever imagine. You think about those times, and there's a certain feel in your mind of how everybody acted and how everybody conducted themselves, and that just everybody needs to know that there is nothing new ever. And the kids today that are all crazy, they are exactly as bad in 1913 as they are in 2018. People are exactly the same, even though movies and TV have shaped kind of the way that we see that time period. Folks, it is exactly the same. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be out in the fall of next year, and I'm really excited about it.
Oh, I can't wait. I want a Ken Bykoff book tour. I want everything, man. I'm looking, but he's telling you the truth. These stories, some of them they're humorous, they're comical, they're like unbelievable. And like he said, nothing happens new. They were cheating back in the turn of the century, just like they are now, people. So there's all kinds of crazy things. And what's one good, quick little story that the fans may not know about?
Well, the fun one, here's a fun one. It's about the old oaken bucket being stolen in 1930. and by stolen, Indiana had never won the old oaken bucket at the time. It was only 5 years old, so they go to West Lafayette, and they win the game, and Purdue didn't even bother to bring the bucket to the game. And so the team had a train to catch back to Bloomington, so they sent one poor guy to this dance that was supposed to be a celebratory dance by Purdue. Well, now he's the one IU guy. They leave one poor guy back to pick up the bucket, and so he's worried he's going to get his butt kicked. So he decides, you know what? Why don't you guys just send it to me tomorrow so I don't have to walk out into the darkness?
Yeah, just FedEx it down.
Yeah, and they say, sure, fine. So their arrangements are made via the phone, and a guy takes the bucket to Indianapolis, where some guys show up, like decked out in 1930s version of Indiana regalia. I mean, they have pennants and stickers and all that, and the guy gives them the bucket, and about maybe an hour later, another guy shows up and says, hey, I'm here from Indiana to get the bucket. And they're like, hey, we already gave it to you. And he said, no, and it turns out those were not Indiana fans. Those were Purdue fans who just took off with the bucket. Assumed Purdue fans, I'll say that, because we still don't know who took it. But there was a whole thing. It became a national story. Governors got involved, and eventually they got it back, and we still don't know who stole it. But again, it's some things that you think wouldn't happen, in that time period. Not only happened, but they happened in a way that we couldn't conceive of happening now.
Amazing. It's always great. And that thing is full of stories. I thought he was going to tell me something I'd already heard. Nope. Every time it's something, it's just, oh my golly. And they're amazing. So I promise you can't wait till that book comes out. I know I'm looking forward to it. I have been since the first story he told me out of it. So looking forward to that. Also, you can catch Ken after each game, Indiana game. He does the Pigs podcast. How's that been going for you, Ken?
It's been going. It's been fun. I do the post-game call-in show on the radio for IU football as well, and I just think that it's just an interesting program this year. And I've long felt that the football program, I understand that they haven't been successful over the years, but they don't get nearly the attention as the basketball program. And that's a shame because I really feel that Tom Allen has this program going in a good direction. Yeah, they lost to Michigan State last week, and I just hope that people don't just shake their heads and say, oh, here we go again. First off, here we go again hasn't been happening for the past couple of years. I mean, this is a program that is just a couple games under 500 over maybe one or two games under 500 over the past 3 seasons. So that in and of itself is a step up to where we've seen this program in the past. And, just one loss, they have, fans could feel that way if Indiana goes to Rutgers this week and loses. This should be a game where Indiana goes ahead and cruises, and they should be excited about that. So, going to Columbus at 4-1 with some real winnable games going forward, I think is something that IU fans should watch. And then it's an exciting time, too, to have Hoosier Hysteria coming up this weekend. It's IU Media Day today for basketball. So it's exciting. And, whether it's on the podcast, on the radio show, there's always a lot to talk about. And so one thing with covering IU is it's never boring.
Absolutely. And I think that we're talking with Ken Bykoff from Pigs.com, of course. I think it's, as far as the loss, it's not an Indiana loss. I think for a lot of folks, it seems like the frustration is growing because of how they're losing. That's the part that seems kind of like a little same old, kind of what happened against Michigan last year, a very unimaginative offense. And the fact now you've got Michael Penix into that equation, because we know that while Peyton Ramsey's a good kid, a hardworking kid, a great quarterback, or a good quarterback, Michael Penix has a much higher ceiling, and we're seeing the ceiling of Peyton Ramsey, and it's like, all right, let's take a shot here because we really don't have a lot to lose. Let's see Michael Penix. And I think there's just a lot of frustration in that regard of wanting to see a little more attempt, because I didn't see a lot of changes in that Michigan State game as far as making post-halftime adjustments offensively.
Well, I was going to say that, there's certainly the idea that there's nobody better to quarterback a team than the backup. And we haven't seen Penix a bunch. I might have gone ahead and just thrown him out there for multiple reasons when it was 28-7. But the bottom line is that Indiana came within 7 points and turned it over to the defense, which had been great all year, and said, "Get us the ball back." And they managed. They made a mistake, and it ended up costing them dearly. And so that's why that 35-21 final. It's 35-21. All of those count. But when you look at other things, you had 7 points that came off a pick six that has nothing to do with that defense. You have a touchdown scored off a fake field goal, which has nothing to do with that defense. The points count, the loss counts. It's not how, it's how many. But the bottom line is, it's not as if that Michigan State game was a disaster. Indiana had a chance to was in striking distance late in the fourth quarter against a ranked team, and nobody wants to hear about moral victories. I understand that. But, hey, there are other programs that are in a lot worse shape, and there is frustration. I get it, because Indiana didn't run the ball against Michigan State very well, and so that's a concern. You have Peyton Ramsey is a solid quarterback. He is a game manager. He's not going to lose you games. We just haven't seen that ability to just suddenly win games, and that's what makes Michael Penix so intriguing, is that he, when you're behind like that, he has a bigger arm. He has a better running ability, all of that. But the question then is, do you throw him out into his first Big Ten game against a defense like that? I don't know. In that game in particular, I would have preferred having a quarterback who left the pocket a little bit sooner rather than later and tried to make plays with his feet. But here's the part of the problem, Jim, is that I was in the press box watching when Indiana all of a sudden threw an unproven kid named Kellen Lewis in the game at Ball State, and all of a sudden this kid ran wild. And so, the big arm, the ability to run, those are all things that fit with Penix. So, yeah, against that Michigan State team, you think, well, you know what, would it be the worst thing to throw him in there? They still had that opportunity to win late. Like I said, now if you look at just this Rutgers game, should be a cruise for Indiana. It better be a cruise. Otherwise, people have a reason to be a little bit concerned. Ohio State's obviously going to be a challenge. Then you got games against Iowa, which Indiana tends to be somewhat competitive with. But that trip to Minnesota is certainly winnable. The Maryland game is certainly winnable. Purdue is certainly winnable. So you beat Rutgers. You have opportunities coming up against some other teams, and you have 3 very winnable games where you very well may be favored against Minnesota, Maryland, and Purdue that give Indiana the kind of that framework, that scaffolding to have a 7-win season before they get to a bowl. I mean, they have to perform on the field, but on paper, you could see a path there, and certainly I think Indiana fans would feel very happy about that kind of outcome.
Absolutely, and it's I'm talking with Ken Bykoff from Pigs.com. It's almost ironic that as in flux as their offense has been, they're still in great position to win 7 games this year, and maybe an 8th if things were to go right. But they're in great shape, definitely for a bowl, and I know that's tantamount, that something that Tom Allen and the staff are focusing on, making sure they get there so they can get to that next level. And hopefully, though, I definitely want to see Penix this game. If they don't play him, obviously, it's because they're trying to preserve that red shirt, which I totally disagree with, because I think they need to win today much rather than they need to worry about winning 3 years from now. Well, we'll find out when they do play, but what a great opportunity it should be for him to get a lot of Big Ten snaps.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why the Ball State game was so important. And the way Indiana won it, they cruised. Peyton Ramsey played 1 series in the second half, and it got turned over to Michael Penix for most of the rest of the game. And so, yeah, you do want him to get that kind of experience, and that's why jumping out to an early lead against Rutgers, again, is important to get him that Big Ten experience and take what you want. Now, if you look at the redshirt situation, I mean, look, when they brought in Brandon Dawkins, I felt that the idea for that was, hey, we're going to bring in Dawkins. It's going to be Dawkins and Ramsey this year. Penix gets a year to develop, and then we could turn it over to him next year and be a nice little bridge where you would have, at the very least, Peyton Ramsey, a guy with experience who might be able to serve as a backup going forward. And so I also think back to the fact that Nate Sudfeld, when he was a true freshman, he was pushed into action because Trey Roberson suffered a broken leg in like the second game of the season. And the idea was for Sudfeld to redshirt that year. And you think about that team a couple of years ago, Richard Lego's first year, if you have an experienced fifth-year starter in Nate Sudfeld that year, it really changes what happens that year. It changes that program. But because they were forced to play him early, he didn't have that opportunity. So I think that there's always that part of it in the back of your mind. You say you don't worry about 3 years down the road. You need to win right now. Well, Indiana has that ability, that path to win right now. If you can hold him back, I understand the reasoning, but I really feel that they're going to give him an opportunity, and that red shirt isn't something that they're going to go with this year because, Penix does give this chance an opportunity to win just thanks to his arm, his running ability, all of that.
I agree with you, Ken. Ken Bykoff from Pigs.com. Anything else you're working on or the fans need to know about?
Oh, it's just, it's always the Pigs podcast. Like I said, Media Day. It's coming up today. We got Hoosier Hysteria this weekend, which is a great event for the fans, and all of it is just trying to bring the best that we can to the people and make them just enjoy the coverage. I try my podcast. A lot of the different podcasts that are out there, they feel not informal. I don't want to say that, but it just anybody with the microphone can go ahead and pick it up and do it. I try to get. Make it as much of a radio show as possible just because that's my background. And so that's really my focus this time of year.
Sounds good. Ken, we'll look forward to seeing you later on today at the Media Day.
All right, take care.
Thank you. Ken Bykoff from Pigs.com. Make sure you check him out. Brought to you by Kentuckiana Premier Truck Center. Whether it's one truck or the entire fleet, Kentuckiana Premier Truck Center has your company covered for sales and service. Locations Louisville and Clarksville. So glad to have Ken Bykoff on. Enjoy him so much. We've got another big program up today. Terry Hutchens, a longtime IU beat writer, of course, joins us each and every Thursday. And then a treat, we've got the Rutgers beat writer, James Kratch, on today as well. So stay tuned. We've got a lot more to go. We've got Archie and Romeo coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat. We're coming right back.
If you're a homeowner and have storm damage to your roof, you want a hometown contractor you can count on and trust. Brooks Roofing of New Albany has been doing quality work since 2006. Check out their work for yourself at brooksroofingin.com. No job is too big or too small, commercial or residential. Brooks Roofing is probably working in your neighborhood right now. Visit brooksroofingin.com or call 812-868-ROOF. That's 812-868-ROOF. Brooks Roofing, the protection you need when nature strikes.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat here on this Thursday, September 27th. Not bad. It looks like it's going to be an okay day. Thanks a lot for taking us along wherever you're going, whatever you may be doing. We appreciate you taking us along for the ride. Welcome back to the program. Justin Kalen, of course, high on the top crew chief's box.
That's right.
Let us know what you're thinking today on the text line, 502-414-1450. We've got Terry Hutchens coming up today. Also, James Kratch from the Star-Ledger Tribune up in New Jersey. Rutgers beat writer. We'll hear from them to see what their perspective is. It can't be too bright, I can tell you that. It's a dim outlook for the Rutgers football program, as of this moment at least. But Terry Hutchens along as well, but a lot more to get to. Yesterday was basketball's media day for Indiana University. We heard from Archie Miller, Romeo Langford, Juwan, the whole crew. The one group I did not even see, which tells me they were out recruiting, the assistant coaches.
Yeah.
Did you see a single assistant?
I think I may have saw Tom Ostrom at one point, but he was in the tunnel, so I couldn't really tell if it was him. But it looked like him. But that was the only one. No, I didn't see any of the others.
Surprise! Other than them, if they're gone recruiting, totally understandable. But
well, and I made a comment to you at one point. I'm surprised that the assistants weren't there yesterday to be questioned as well. People like to hear what they have to say.
To be questioned,
like
interviewed.
It's
not an inquisition.
Interviewed.
It's not an inquisition. See, I don't like to call them interviews. I don't think I have interviews here on the show. I like to have conversations. I like to talk to people. I like to talk to them. I have a conversation back and forth. That's informative. I like to have informative conversations. There you go. I don't like the word interview. It sounds so stiff. And that's all that is about somebody with a board and 10 questions written down. Unless it's something specific that I want to talk about, I don't write it down.
Yeah.
I have a conversation with them. I ask a question, and it leads to the next thing. I have things that I want to cover for sure and topics, but
even when you do write those down, you don't always remember those.
You got that right. I'm so mad. Talked to Matt Weaver yesterday and didn't talk about David Bell coming to Indiana on his scheduled visit on the December 8th, along with the kid from Florida, the quarterback.
December 8th? October 8th?
October 8th is what I said.
It's like, why would he want to come in December?
Wait a minute. I think it is December 8th.
No, that's horrible.
Yeah, they're playing football right now, dude.
Not in December.
No, right now, October.
Yeah, okay.
That's why it's December 8th. It is December 8th. But we heard yesterday from Archie Miller, heard from Juwan Morgan, heard from Romeo. And as a matter of fact, let's hear from Juwan. And then also Romeo's right behind him. I asked him about making the jump from high school to college and that pressure because he comes to Indiana with there's a lot of expectations, a lot of fan following. Asking how he dealt with that pressure. And are we going straight into Archie?
We'll
break.
Yeah,
okay.
We'll break a little.
So
here's this is Juwan talking about Romeo, by the way.
Okay, Juwan talking about Romeo, and then Romeo answering my question about feeling the pressure.
He's been a great teammate. Just not what you is usually portrayed of a five-star going in, being pretty much like the savior of a team or anything like that. But he's just a real down-to-earth guy. He's always making an extra pass. We all know he can score it, and he shows that ability, but he also is able to see passes and plays before it even happens. And I think that is just something that you build over time, and I think he's really putting in the extra work. As good as he is, he's only getting better.
Jim? Romeo, through high school, you've come through a lot of pressure situations, but now you come to Indiana as one of the most heralded freshmen since Damon Bailey. How is it coming in here with all that pressure on your shoulders? What do you do to let that go and just play your game?
I really don't feel pressure. I'm just coming here to play basketball and do my job, and
That's all I'm focusing on, is having a successful season with my team this year.
Ice, baby. You heard it, man. I don't feel pressure. Straight from the man.
After watching him all day yesterday, I'm not sure he feels emotion. He had the same look on his face the whole day.
What did I tell you last year? After seeing him play all those games, he is emotionless. And I don't mean he doesn't feel it. He's emotionless as far as being able to process it. Nothing illustrates that better than you go back to the loss to Warren Central when he's walking off and that kid came out of the crowd and ran up behind him and kind of shoved him a little bit in his back. And he didn't even acknowledge that it happened.
Didn't even look back.
Did not acknowledge that someone had touched him. So that's someone in complete control of their emotions. Most people don't have that luxury.
Yeah.
And when you don't have that luxury of complete control, well, you don't have complete control of your own decision-making because you get a little excited. He doesn't. That's what makes them lethal.
Yeah.
The ability to make split-second decisions under unbelievable intense pressure, but he doesn't feel that pressure. Where most of us would be nervous and whatnot, and it affects your emotions. He doesn't have that. That gene's not there.
And that was evident as well when they were doing the team photos yesterday. And the guy taking the photos kept, all right, goofy one, let's smile big, act serious. Romeo's expression did not change. He had the same look on his face the whole time that they were taking pictures.
Archie Miller also speaking yesterday, obviously, so let's hear Archie open things up. He was the first person to actually speak. But let's hear what Archie had to say.
This is about Romeo as well.
Well, he's 15 pounds heavier, which with a guy like him is a huge deal. You know, the bumps that he takes, the amount of drives that he has at the basket, his ability to obviously leap and get in the air and take contact. You know, he's roughly 6'6", 215 right now as a freshman, so that's not a little guy. So I think, you know, just being stronger is something that you're going to see. From a game perspective, I've really enjoyed being around him. You know, he's a guy that I think is so used to really being perfect in many ways, or at least trying to approach being perfect in many ways, that, you know, making mistakes and some things like that here as he's been away from us out of his comfort zone had bothered him, whether he missed a couple shots in a row in a drill or whether he's been in practice and he struggled defensively early. You could see almost a pressure or almost a, wow, this isn't as easy as I maybe once thought, to a guy that's, you know, has learned week by week that it's okay to make a mistake. It's okay and understand that you're not going to be perfect and make every shot. But the rapidness that he can grow will only really stay within his framework of concentrating on just getting better and being one of the guys. And we've really tried to approach that with all of our players, coached them the same way as we've coached every guy here so far in the first however many months we've been here. And from week 1 to sort of feeling it out to week 2, maybe feeling a little better, week 3 taking a jump, and then all of a sudden week 4 and 5 in our preseason, I think he's been at his best. So, you know, to say the least, that he's gotten better. He's embraced this system. He's embraced what we've tried to get through to him. But he's got a long road ahead like the rest of them. And, you know, we look forward to coaching him, to be honest with you. He's, I think, really, really in a good place in terms of being here, getting coached, being with his teammates, getting pushed. He's having a good time, obviously. It's a great place to go to school. So we feel good about where he's at.
So there's Coach Archie Miller talking about Romeo. Talked about a lot of different things, and we're going to hear from him in a little bit. Actually, on the state of the program coming in this year. A whole different season, obviously, but this is his second year. Huge difference. That first year coming in, everything's new. Everybody's learning. He's learning the team. He's learning the facilities, learning the school, learning the job, learning the conference. Just tons of things new for Archie. So you can imagine what the team was going through as well, because it's all learning for them. Last year, a year of just complete, total, it was a reboot almost.
Well, yeah, I'd say it was. I mean, you got a new head coach. I think anytime you get a new head coach is a complete reboot.
And so looking back, I'll be honest with you, with the talent that they ended up having in retrospect, I'm shocked they did what they did.
Over 500.
Oh, my God. That team had a winning record and could have actually probably won 20 games easily.
So coaching gets for you.
I'm telling you, that shows a huge difference. because now this team has talent. So I really wanted to ask him about the expectations, because there are expectations this season.
Sure.
Some of those come with Romeo.
Romeo was asked about expectations.
Yeah, some of those comes with Romeo and alone. But, man, this team is not just Romeo.
No, not even
and
close.
Archie talked about the fact that there's going to be sacrifice, and we'll hear him talk about that probably. But there's going to be sacrifices made, and by that he means minutes. People will be sacrificing minutes, playing time, because there's only so many of them, and there's a lot of talent out there, man.
Yeah.
But I think the young guys, they're cool with that. They're cool with learning, earning their time. They know what's in front of them. They know Romeo's going to be here 1 year and gone. But they're all about team. That was the thing that really, really gathered out of that. They were all about one united front. The goal, one goal, winning. Playing together to win. That's very obvious that they're all in that unified front together.
Perhaps Tom Allen and Archie Miller been hanging out.
Yeah. Rubbed off on him.
Getting that LEO going.
Let's hear what Coach had to say as he welcomed us to Indiana Basketball 2018.
Coming. I guess this will be the annual kickoff for Media Day, which sets us up for a really good weekend this weekend with Hoosier Hysteria for our fans and our players, their families, our staff, and generally just kickoff week, so to speak. So it's exciting. We begin on Monday with less fanfare on Monday the 1st, which will be our first official day of practice. So it's a good time to come in midweek, set it up for this weekend, and then obviously get ready to go for next week.
That was Coach Archie Miller talking about welcoming, basically lighting the Olympic torch of sorts.
It's a good analogy.
Yeah, for Indiana basketball as things get underway. Practice will start on Monday, and then about exactly 1 month away, we'll see them in their first contest. I think that's Southern Indiana.
Yeah, you talk about year 2 for Archie. I thought it was pretty evident yesterday just exactly how much more comfortable he is in this system. I mean, he was confident yesterday, the way he spoke, the way he answered his questions. He didn't have a paper in front of him, so it wasn't like he was reading straight from a piece of paper. But, yeah, I really thought Archie Miller yesterday had an air of confidence about him that I didn't quite see last year.
Well, it may not be confidence because I think he was – I understand what you're saying. I think it's not confidence. I think it is more organization. And not that he wasn't organized, but things have come into organization now. They're more in sync.
Leading comfortability.
He does not have to worry about retraining guys and deprogramming half of a team or more than most of it, all of a team for that matter. He didn't have to worry about doing that this year. Everybody coming back was already on the same page. Everybody coming in was new, and all they knew was high school stuff, which wasn't much. So they were fresh and ripe to learn. Huge difference. I remember talking to him about that back at Huber's, asking him what difference is, how big of a difference is it coming in that way, because you can hit the ground running. And he said, it's huge. You can get so much more done. And obviously they are. I think this team has come together like they were welded together.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good, fun season. Archie also, I asked him, do you have my question?
I do.
I asked him about, he mentioned conditioning a lot. And we talked about Coach Cliff Marshall earlier, who's been on the program, and the importance that Cliff Marshall's made. It's just, we talk about it a lot, but it's mind-boggling. The things these guys are doing physically and the increases they've made, it's become space-age stuff, man. But let's hear what Archie had to say when I asked him about Coach
you
Cliff
often
Marshall.
talk about conditioning, and obviously Coach Cliff Marshall has had a tremendous impact on this team. How do you expect to see that translate onto the floor this year?
Well, the biggest thing is preventative. I don't think that obviously as we train, we try to do things in a manner where as we start the season, guys are feeling pretty good and you're not dealing with a ton of knick-knack stuff. And, knock on wood, I think that's been our off season. We've had a lot of good stuff happen in terms of development, physically stronger, weight gains, weight losses, whatever it may be. Our team physically is looking good, but they're feeling pretty good coming into the year when we're not dealing with a ton of just maintenance issues. That's always important as we start. And, really, the month of October is a huge test to the body. You start to go back-to-back, you start to get physical, and then that's where you hope that you can use your practices to really start to energize your conditioning level towards, not even games, but just scrimmages and things like that. The scrimmages get you to the games, and maybe your first couple exhibitions obviously are leading you into that opener. So our approach is slow in, and the hope is to always be at your best, at the right time of year. And for us, that's January, February, March. And that's when you got to have that ability to really push through and finish strong. So, but Cliff's really been monumental for us. I think our players gravitate to his style, and from a strength and conditioning element, I don't think that we're really lacking there in terms of the development side of things. I think just taking a look at guys being here for 16 months with them, or a year, being here year to year. I mean, our sophomore class in general has really changed physically, which should really help their games. If you look at Juwan, just being where he was when we first got here to where he is now, by far and away the most explosive that he's been since he's been in college. And I think you can go down the line and sort of see the gains, but we're pleased with the development this season coming into the year.
Coach Archie Miller talking about the addition of Coach Cliff Marshall and all the things that has done and how it's benefited. And I'm looking forward to seeing a guy with a vertical leap increased by 7 inches. I'm not kidding. I mean, he should be a blocking machine.
Yeah.
He has a 48-inch vertical. He ought to be blocking some shots. And he's 6'8" on top of that.
Yeah.
So you got a 6'8" missile jacking up 4 feet, bang, 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 which you're not going to be able to jump 4 feet dead-footed, but.
Well, not only defensively blocking shots, but offensively. I mean,
rebounding.
Justin Smith was a guy that really came into his own late in the year last year. Started firing up some shots, scoring a lot more for Indiana.
Yeah, he was scoring from the outside more than the inside, but this increased vertical leap, that should aid him in being able to do a lot, being able to finish around the rim specifically, get rebounds, offensive, defensive.
I think you did see a lot of finishing around the rim for Justin Smith. You saw a few athletic plays from him where he went up for dunks. I think you're just going to see a whole lot more of that this year.
Well, we'll certainly find out. The competition is certainly there. I mean, good Lord. They've got Cliff Moore, who did not see much action at all this year, and I'm still I don't know what he's like. I'll be honest with you. I don't see him play.
Clifton Moore, a guy Joker noted on the text line 502-414-1450 if you want to text in as well. Said Clifton Moore looked a lot bigger, and he did absolutely.
Well, yeah, I mean he has to be. There's no way you're not going to be. If you're going through that program, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. I
mean there's just no way not. Unless they have a physical problem, because they have to do that. That's part of their quote-unquote job.
Yeah.
But when you have that resources, it's handed to you every day. Here's what I need from you. Here's what I need. Here's the equipment. Here's the food. So they've got it built in right there. But, yeah, I've not seen him from a basketball stance. As a basketball player, no idea what he's like.
Yeah.
Obviously wasn't there last year because he didn't see a minute. I mean, he did, but hardly. And, again, the competition, good Jerome Hunter, Jake Forrester, those are new guys.
Yeah.
Evan Fitzner, those are all 6'8" or above. All new faces. Race Thompson is a new face. I mean, for all practical purposes, he's a freshman.
Yeah.
He's a red shirt freshman. Not only that, did he not move up or graduate early?
He did, yeah.
So he is truly a freshman. I mean, that's what he would normally be as a freshman.
Yeah.
But he had a red shirt last year, so he was out all season long. He was working with Coach. Who am I looking for?
Marshall?
No.
Miller?
We'll just run through all of them. You'll get to him. Ed.
Oh, Schilling.
Ed Schilling, Coach Ed Schilling, specialist in development. So he's gotten to work, Coach Ed Schilling working with him for the entire year in that redshirt season. He's a big 6'8". You know he's grown and gotten bigger working with Cliff Marshall. No idea what that's going to be like. He's an X factor, a total X factor.
Yep.
We've got to take a break. We've got a big program today. Coming up, we've got Terry Hutchens, of course, the beat writer, a long time for IU. We've also got James Kratch from the Star-Ledger Tribune in New Jersey. May have Stu. I think we're going to skip a Stu today. But stay tuned here on Indiana Sports Beat. We've got tons more coming back.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Well, welcome back to Indiana Sports Beats. Jim Coyle, Justin Kalen, high atop the crew chief's box as always. Thanks a lot for joining us. Take us along wherever you're going, whatever you're doing. I hope your day's going well here on this Thursday, September 27th. My gosh, I can't believe it. It's almost October.
It's crazy.
October 1st, first day of basketball practice for Indiana. Archie talked about last night, of course. Hoosiers had their media day yesterday. We got to meet with all the players, talk to the coaches. Talk to Coach, actually, not the coaches. But we got to hear from all of them.
I know, you talked to Cliff Marshall for a little bit.
Well, that was just serendipitous. Happened to run into him walking between hallways. But what a very upbeat guy, man. He's happy. You can tell he loves what he does. Super nice guy. Super nice. That was a great conversation to get to have with him, get to meet him. Because a lot of times I talk to so many people, but it's usually over the radio, and sometimes it takes a while to get to meet them.
Yep.
But it's always good when you get to. But Tom Allen also has got a big game coming up this weekend. We'll talk to Terry Hutchens about that, and we'll talk about yesterday's events when he comes on. Also, we have James Kratch from the New Jersey Star-Ledger coming up. He's a beat writer for Rutgers. As Indiana's taking on the Scarlet Knights Saturday in I think a noon contest.
Yep.
So
was that
up in Piscataway.
No, Ball State was noon, wasn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah, so second noon game.
And so for all the folks going up to Hoosier Hysteria, heading to Assembly Hall, I think the doors open at 2 is the earliest you can get in. If you try to park before then, you have to park on Fee Lane. But once you get in, they will be showing the Indiana football game, which right around once 2 o'clock opens up, the second half should be just getting underway, or actually well underway. It should be into the third quarter by then. So you can go in there and check out the football game as it comes to a close, and then ready yourself for Hoosier Hysteria, which is good because last year that didn't happen. It bumped into the start, and the game wasn't quite over with, and I think it was an exciting game. But before we get that and go any further, let's get to the headlines with Justin.
All right, here are your headlines for this Thursday, September 27th. Brought to you by Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart, located on Highway 150 in Floyd's Knobs. Make sure you stop in for your hot breakfast, fill your gas tank, or hit up their daily lunch special. $3.99 today, Mexican casserole. Cubs and Brewers both clinched playoff spots last night. The Cubs now turn their attention to the NL Central title that's well within reach. Rockies right-handed pitcher German Marquez tied an MLB record last night with 8 straight strikeouts to start the ballgame, and Clemson quarterback Kelly Bryant to transfer amid quarterback change this week. Those are your headlines for this September 27th, brought to you by Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart, located on Highway 150 in Floyd's Knobs. Stop in for your hot breakfast or your hot lunch special as well, $3.99. Mexican casserole today.
So Clemson is losing another quarterback. Is that correct?
He's a senior. He's going to use that redshirt rule. He played in 4 games this year.
Oh, that's right.
He's going to use the redshirt rule and go somewhere else.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but did not Northwestern sign a quarterback
Hunter
from
Johnson.
Clemson?
Yep. Absolutely, they did.
It must be nice to be able to lose 5-star quarterbacks left and right because they got benched.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, my question becomes, you got this freshman, you've got Kelly Bryant leaving, you had Hunter Johnson, who you just mentioned, leave. Now what happens if he gets hurt? What happens if he takes a big hit and he can't play?
Well, apparently, quarterbacks grow on trees down in Clemson because they just pop up to another 5-star. That's why they are where they are every year. He doesn't leave the cupboard bare.
Yeah.
But there's another event of a freshman starting. Coach going with it. So, we have a lot of conversations about that with Indiana, but we'll talk about that probably not today, but tomorrow. So we'll save it for tomorrow, the day before the game. Sammy Jacobs will be back on. But we did hear from Coach Allen earlier this week talking about getting things ready. What sound is this, by the way?
Let's go to the text line first.
Oh, it's right. We
that?
got tons of text.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, by the way. 502-414-1450. Hit us up on the text line with any thoughts or questions that you may have, or questions you may have for Terry or James Kratch coming up. But what you got there?
Tim texts in and says, did you see Al Durham? He looks like a beast. They said he added 15 pounds.
Everybody was talking about how they've gained, 15,
everybody's
18
gained 15,
pounds.
yeah.
But it's all muscle. So actually, they've gained more weight than that because muscle weighs more than fat. So if you gain 15 pounds of just pure muscle, then you're probably gaining 20 because you're not gaining any fat. It's negated by the fat. But they're just lean and strong. It's Orwellian almost.
Yeah.
But
then he also says he can't believe that Romeo says nobody bothers him when he walks on campus. I really couldn't believe that either. He said he's been stopped 2, maybe 3 times.
Well, I think part of that is that persona. You know, he's so monotone and quiet. He's very stealth-like. There's some truth to that. That's kind of how his game is. He's very stealthy. We talk about how smooth and fluid he always looks, and looks like he's going 3/4 speed when he's actually not. He's so freakishly fluid. It looks like that.
Yeah.
And I think that carries over to campus when you're walking around. He's stealthy, man. He just is. He just got it.
And then Joker texts in and says, the difference in hearing Coach Miller speak and Coach Allen speak is funny. Slow, calm, and methodical versus hyped, fast, and wild.
Let me guess who hyped.
You put those together.
Yeah, I think I can figure that one out.
And then he also said they should open the doors at noon for the football game and have the concessions open. Man, the event people need some schooling. I agree, Joker. I said it yesterday.
That's a great idea, man. Great idea.
The only issue is, like you said, Jim, yesterday, you'd have to staff it.
But if you're selling stuff, you're making it up.
Exactly.
You're making it up on its own. But of course, you're only going to sell so much stuff, though.
Yeah. And then Bill texts in as well, 502-414-1450, if you want to do the same. Says, hey, Jim, what was the evacuation alarm about?
Oh, my gosh.
Did a Purdue fan call in a bomb threat?
That was hilarious.
Oh, it was so funny.
I forget who was on the dais at the time. It may have been.
It was Devontae, Clifton Moore, and Jerome.
So we're going through the player interviews.
Or Race Thompson, not Clifton. Right.
And they were bringing them in. Well, they brought them in 2 at a time with Juwan and Romeo. But after that, it was 3 at a time at the table in the press room. Well, about the time, we're in the middle of that. I think we'd kind of been.
We were like 3 questions in.
We were
maybe 3-4 questions in.
All of a sudden, this loud shrieking. The fire alarm system they have at Assembly Hall is quite sufficient. Let me tell you, it starts going off, and the lady telling, "Attention! Attention! Attention! This building has been ordered to evacuate." Well, so that's going off, and J.D. Campbell, poor J.D., his head just drops. He's like, I know what he was thinking. I can't say that what he was thinking, but I guarantee you I know what he was thinking. And then after quite a bit of waiting for that thing to come to a close,
It's probably 20 minutes or so.
Him gone. Finally, he comes back. It's all right, guys. We're moving it back over to Cook Hall where they were over there shooting. But we're moving out of the media room where the tables are, where you have the desks that are permanent and set up, and it's set up for that. Now we're going over to the Cook Hall, the gym, and which it was kind of nicer though because it was a one-on-one situation which I much prefer because you get to ask the questions you want to ask.
When you want to ask.
Not
necessarily.
It's a better situation.
Yeah.
But you can't get to everybody. And so that's the tougher part of it. But we got to talk to quite a few of them. But that's what it was about. A stupid fire alarm went off.
Yeah, no, that was funny. It was especially from my perspective because they had lights in the press room as well, and they started blinking. They blinked. I don't know if you noticed this or not, but they blinked 3 or 4 times, and I was kind of looking at it, and I looked up at JD, and he's like sitting there just slightly shaking his head like, no, please don't what I think's about to happen.
Well, but
and then it started going crazy with the noise.
Once the recorded woman's voice started screaming, attention, this building's been ordered for evacuation. JD Campbell's like, nah,
we're fine.
He's just hand waving it off. Nah, that just you're good. You're good.
Oh, that was hilarious.
Yeah, so that was so
nice little surprise for the day.
I guess somebody pulled an alarm.
Perhaps. Yeah, who knows?
But yeah,
they had to wait for the fire department to come to turn it off. That was great.
And the photo shoot that they go through now, unbelievable, amazing. I mean, you talk about a professional. This is like an event.
Yeah.
I mean, they make videos for all the entertainment that they do during the season that you see on the video board and all that. They make that stuff yesterday.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. You got the fog lights going, the backlights, and I saw a photo of Romeo where there was like a single spotlight in the middle of the floor, and it's just a silhouette kind of a situation. Very, very cool.
Oh, you know what? Now I understand the red hallway. I didn't put that together yesterday.
The red hallway?
Yeah.
Why?
That they're probably doing some sort of video in there.
Oh, yeah. There was a great picture just of when Romeo and
it looked like a haunted house.
And Juwan, we were walking over from Cook Hall back over to the media room. They were up in front, and I wish I could have got up there because there were some guys that were taking pictures that were just awesome photos. But they were up in front walking together, which was very, very cool. So a great day yesterday. Stay tuned with us. We've got James Kratch from the New Jersey Star-Ledger coming up. He's a beat writer for the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. We'll get his perspective on it. And after that, of course, we've got Terry Hutchens, our man. He'll be joining us as well, so stay tuned. Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle's coming right back.
He said the men come to take me away. Why do they follow me? It's not the future that I can see. It's just my fantasy.
If you want to get your day off to a good start, then stop at Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart on Highway 150 in Floyd's Knobs. While you're filling your gas tank, you could fill your own tank with a hot breakfast or try one of Billy Joe's daily lunch special. Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart opens at 5 a.m. and everything is made fresh daily. And if you bring your own mug, coffee is only 50 cents. And Billy Joe's also has free air. The best place to start your day is at Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart on Highway 150 in Floyd's Knobs.
Today's guest is brought to you by Brooks Roofing, the protection you need when Mother Nature strikes. BrooksRoofingIN.com. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle here on the Big X Sports. Fortunate to be joined now by James Kratch from the New Jersey Star-Ledger, beat writer for the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. James, how are you, sir?
I am excellent, Jim. How are you?
Great, man. I appreciate you joining us so much.
No problem. Glad to be on.
Well, Indiana had a rough go of it last week, but Rutgers is not. Seems like they've been having a few rough weeks of it. A lot of people looked at Indiana needing a game like this, and that's unfortunate for Rutgers. Rutgers is kind of in a state of transformation, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, it's been pretty rough here. Obviously, when the season started, there was hopes that this team is third year under Chris Ash, and they won 2 wins in year one, 4 in year two. People thought, hey, this is the year they can go 6-6, get back to a bowl game. A lot of people circled this game. Indiana is kind of like maybe the key game, the game they would have to get in order to get 6 wins. But obviously, has kind of gone off the rails here a little bit. The blowout loss to Ohio State was expected, obviously, but to get hammered at Kansas and then lose 42-13 at home to Buffalo last week, this team is clearly reeling, and I think the Hoosiers come in here, especially after beating Rutgers 41-0 last year. There's not a lot of optimism around town that Rutgers is going to be able to hang with Indiana.
What's been the biggest issue for Rutgers? Inabilities on offense, injuries, defensive problems?
Yeah, where to begin? I mean, it's been kind of a perfect storm of things. I think the biggest issue this team has is its defense. Last year, the defense was pretty good, and they were able to kind of scratch out 3 Big Ten wins, by kind of running the football, controlling the clock, playing to the defense. This year, this defense is just not at that level. I mean, when you give up 35 points in the first half to Buffalo and close to 400 yards of offense, you've got issues. The offense has been very bad, too, pretty much non-productive for the most part. But I think it's a situation where, as bad as the offense has been, the defense has been worse. I think the defense is the major issue because it's really difficult to sit down and, think, okay, well, how does Rutgers fix this? I don't think they really can as long as their defense is playing so poorly.
For Indiana, it's Michigan State. I don't think they exposed it, but because I think a lot of us kind of already knew this. But Indiana's game with Peyton Ramsey is a very action-packed, short passing game with the running game in there quite as well. But a team like Michigan State was able to get in there quite a bit and disrupt that. But Rutgers doesn't seem to have that firepower up front, and when not, these guys are connecting at a pace of about 75% on the passing. So they've really been working well up until the Michigan State game.
Yeah, that's I think maybe the biggest issue that Rutgers has inside the defense. They don't have a pass rush at all, and they haven't had a sack the last 2 weeks. And I know the coaching staff will point to, well, we've disrupted a quarterback, we rushed a throw here and overthrow there, et cetera. And I understand that, but they just don't get enough of a pass rush at any point in the game. And they're very inexperienced in the secondary. Obviously, Bless Austin, their star cornerback, had to have his ACL tear reconstructed, so he's out for the season. They lost a starting safety in the offseason to a legal issue. They're starting true freshman at one of the cornerback spots who's making progress, but still. So I think that's their major issue is that they don't get a push up front. That kind of leaves the guys on the back end hang out to dry a little bit. And their linebackers are solid, but they're not, rangy playmakers. They're going to be all over the field. So this is just a defense that's really kind of in a rut right now. And I think that Indiana, with the ability to run the ball, the kind of short passing attack, it's a good matchup for Rutgers in the sense that I don't think they're going to necessarily get overwhelmed in the same way they did against Buffalo or Kansas or Ohio State with all that speed on the field. But I think at the same time, Indiana should feel like they're going to have a good amount of success on Saturday.
Talking with James Kratch from the New Jersey Star-Ledger. And another thing that I think a lot of us are expecting to see, Mike Penix is a true freshman that had a shot to win the starting job, and it was apparently very close, but Peyton Ramsey has been given that. But a lot of us have just continued to point out that they don't have the ability to go downfield and stretch defenses when they play, which is critical, and Michael Penix has a strong arm. So I'm thinking that the Rutgers Scarlet Knights may see a lot more of Mike Penix this week than Peyton Ramsey possibly.
No, and I think they do. I think it's going to be a major concern for them just because they are kind of susceptible. They've been hit, beaten by a couple of deep balls, against Ohio State. And this past week, Buffalo's a very good team. They got some NFL talent on that offense, but there were some moments where Rutgers just didn't seem to know what they were doing. There's complete confusion on some breakdowns, especially one long touchdown. I think Penix, it's a wrinkle that they really haven't had to deal with so much this year. Most of the teams they've played have just had one quarterback. I mean, Ohio State, I think, rolled 4 or 5 quarterbacks in, but obviously that game was far gone.
Yeah, and they're just Indiana's defense, while young, they've been playing pretty well this season. They played actually very well against Michigan State up until the fourth quarter. They had only given up about 50 yards rushing until they let a 75-yard run get away from them. But overall, they've been playing young, had a lot of replacements on the line, and at linebacker, secondary's been very strong. But they've gotten better and better. But the defense has played well for the most part in each game they've had.
Yeah, and I think it's a matchup for them that they probably feel pretty good about. Rutgers has kind of got, I guess, the reverse of what Indiana has. They started true freshman Art Sikowski, won a job out of training camp. He struggled. I mean, 7 interceptions, 3 have been returned for touchdowns. And obviously he played probably his best game this past week against Buffalo. The stats weren't very good. He completed less than 50% of his passes, but he was going through his reads. He was making better decisions. He got away with a pass or two, but there was a moment where no one was open. He just threw it away instead of trying to force something. But they benched him in the first half to try to kind of create a spark. It didn't go anywhere. And bring in redshirt senior Gio Ricchino, who started 12 games the past 2 seasons. So everything I'm being told is that they're going to stick with Sikowski, which I think is the right move because he's a guy who allows them to take those shots down the field. I think Gio might be similar to Peyton Ramsey in the sense that it's kind of short passes, control the game. That's not what the Rutgers need to do right now, and I think at this point in their season, they need to be worried about developing a pretty young team overall for the future. I don't think this is going to go to a bowl game unless they catch fire here. So it's sort of the opposite of what Indiana has. I think you're going to see Rutgers try to attack Indiana down the field a little bit more because I think they realize, given where they are, they got to kind of let Sikowski kind of go through these growing pains and play a little bit more loose. Last week it was a very conservative approach, and it didn't get him anywhere because before they knew it, it was 28-6.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit similar to Indiana's situation last week, but we'll certainly find out. James Kratch from the Star-Ledger of New Jersey, we appreciate you joining us, and we'll look forward and see how things turn out on Saturday.
Anytime, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, James. James Kratch from the New Jersey Star-Ledger joining us, a Rutgers beat writer, letting us know how things are going up there. Brought to you by Brooks Roofing, the protection you need when Mother Nature strikes. Check them out at brooksroofinginc.com. They're probably working in your neighborhood right now. Had some storms over the last year or so. Get that roof checked out. Brad Rooks can get you taken care of. They are a local contractor, by the way.
Over the last week or so, you mean?
Yeah, just wind damage is crazy. I know they've been very, very busy, but not all the experts of what they do, they're local. So they're right here. You don't have to worry about some fly-by-night agency. brooksroofinginc.com. Check them out. But, yeah, that you can tell that even with the Rutgers people, they're just, it's like.
Not real confident.
The towel's in. The towel's in, man. They don't even have a towel to wave. They've already thrown it. They've thrown in the towel. They've thrown in this kitchen sink. They've thrown it all in, it sounds like.
I mean, can you blame them?
No.
If I'm seeing score lines like that and I'm a Rutgers,
whatever dude, you gave up 55 points to Kansas. You lost to Buffalo. And Indiana just got manhandled and comes in as a 17-point favorite.
Which they should be well over that. If I had to guess.
Well, I mean, that's a lot of points.
It is a lot of points. But Indiana should for sure win by 17.
It sounds like Indiana could score a lot of points in this game. Rutgers does not have any semblance of a defensive line. Indiana's strong points are offensive line. They don't handle the pass very well. Indiana's strength is passing. And if you don't have a defensive line, this offensive line could just chew them up, and Stevie Scott and or Ronnie Walker could just make mincemeat out of them.
Yeah.
Running wild, especially with the thing about Indiana's offense, even though they with Peyton Ramsey, they can't go down the field. If they could protect him, I think it would sustain itself. Because if you got the protection and you have 3-4 options, and you're checking all 3 or 4 options out, that offense is just very difficult to defend.
Yeah, and it's not like Peyton Ramsey doesn't go through his progressions by choice. That's a good point you bring up. He hasn't had all the time in the world to do that.
Well, even when he does, though, I still of the school. I think he's picking a receiver and going to. But that may not be true. So, but yeah, if you don't have protection, it doesn't matter.
No.
But when you don't have protection, throw slant passes.
Sure. Slant. Hard to go wrong with a slant.
And here's the other thing about Indiana's tempo offense. This is not the Kevin Wilson tempo offense. It's the same no huddle, but I don't consider Indiana an up-tempo offense.
No.
They no huddle the ball. That's just to keep the defense off the field is all that is. But they rarely, only half the time, do they go through with the play call that was originally set in. They're usually checking down a lot, which to me is part of the tempo, is part of what gets these defensive sides. You get them on their heels and you get them spinning and you get them going backwards.
Yeah, and that's one thing that really drives me nuts about Indiana is the fact that they will get up to the line really quickly, act like they're going to run the play, and then everybody just gets up, backs up, looks over at the bench.
The play they've called, it's either covered with a different defensive coverage that they know it's not going to work. So you got to check out of that play.
But it seemingly happens every time, though. I mean, Well,
that tells you there's a lot of bad play calls that go in.
That may be true.
So there's that thought.
Might go back to old board.
Yeah. Go back to the drawing board.
Speaking of DeBoard, Tim texted in yesterday. We didn't get to it. But he asked, do you think the choice to not play Penix is Coach Allen's or DeBoard's? Probably a combo of both.
I do. I believe it's a combination of both.
Yeah.
I absolutely do. But the ultimate decision is Tom Allen's, and I know he would say that is his decision, because he will stand up and take full responsibility, or whatever terminology you'd like to use. But I just think that there's, just because of the youth as his head coach, I think that he's just a little conservative. A little afraid to use him, don't want to get him hurt, don't want to put him in a bad situation. I understand what his thinking is. I just think it's time. I think it's time to roll. You have a mid-ceiling person out there who has a great talent, though. He has other talents. He's a great leader. This team follows him. They'll follow him. Well, that's great, but I just think it's time. I'd like to see it. I'd just like to see a shot. Roll the dice. Here's the perfect time to do it. Turn over the keys. Here's the keys of the car.
Gamble a little bit.
Let's see what you can do. So we'll find out. We've got a break coming up. Of course, coming up now, we've got Terry Hutchens. Or not now, but right after the break, of course. Indiana sports beat writer for 20-plus years. Looking forward to talking to him. As always, Mr. Excitement. We'll be back with all that and more here on Indiana Sports Beat. Stay tuned. Hey, if you're in the market for a new truck or tractor, car, or ATV, you need to be at Hollis Auction Service on November the 10th. Located on Highway 150 in Greenville, just west of Highway 335, Hollis Auction Service also needs items for the auction. If you're looking to sell, call Billy Joe Hollis today at 502-664-1606. That's 502-664-1606. Make sure you're at Hollis Auction Service in Greenville on November 10th. Today's guest is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. With hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer. Pizza, burgers, beer. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville.
Get your motor running. Head out on the highway. Looking for adventure. And whatever comes our way.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat. Jim Coyle sitting in with you. Looking to bring on Terry Hutchens here in a few minutes. Indiana had Media Day yesterday up in Bloomington, Indiana. We were on the campus of IU. Got to hear from all the players, talk to Coach Miller. Good to see those guys, to see them fill it out. It's amazing the difference that has gone on over the course of just several months for some of them, the transformation that they have made physically. But also... they all look very comfortable speaking. The freshmen particularly. I can't think of – I didn't get to talk to Demezi, but Jake Forrester, I mean, gee, Jerome, Rob Fennessy, it's like they've been doing it already. Of course, they're used to it as being a high-profile recruit. They've been going through this for a while, but they seem like seasoned pros. Rob Fennessy is not. It was funny. I was talking to Jerome Hunter. We were walking between Assembly Hall and Cook Hall once, and I'd interviewed him last year at the Southport Classic when he played up there. And I think Rob was up there. Everybody played there that day. Romeo played, everybody. But his team is actually from Ohio, so playing in that was the first time he'd ever played in Indiana. But as we're going through, I was reminding him, hey, Jerome, yeah, we met last year. I was interviewing blah, blah, blah. And Rob Fennessy was walking with us and just made the comment. Was that before he got thrown out? But it was pretty funny because he did end up getting, I think, some technical fouls in that game and getting tossed. But it seems like a very good guy. But joined now by Terry Hutchens, a veteran beat writer for Indiana University. Terry, how are you, sir?
Good. How are you this morning?
Great. Indiana had media day yesterday. We've been talking about rolling the freshmen out, getting a look at them, getting to talk to Archie for the first time in a while. What were your impressions overall of this year's team?
I mean, there's a lot of talent there. I think that's the first thing that really jumps out at you when you look at how many guys are going to be competing for playing time, and I think it was Archie that first used the word sacrifice and said that that some people are really, it's going to be hard for some probably that they may not be playing the amount of time that maybe they're used to, and I think when you're talking about high level guys that aren't used to that, it'll be interesting to see how different people handle it, how many people are easily able to step aside and, for the good of the team, just to accept whatever their role is going to be. So, that's going to be something that's going to be kind of interesting to watch as things develop here in the next month or two. But, no, I just thought overall that, you have a lot of interesting pieces and parts with this team.
Yeah, there's a lot of new faces coming in. One of the things I did notice, and maybe it's because there are so many new faces coming in as a group, this team seems to have gelled personality-wise. They really seem to enjoy being around each other and clowning around, and they seem pretty loose.
They did seem loose, and, there is a lot of, there's a lot of people getting acquainted or whatever, however you want to say it, that has to take place. And, having all the freshmen come in, that pretty much the week after the Indiana All-Star game in June and kind of getting people acclimated that way helps a lot. But yeah, I think that, that was something that seemed to stand out yesterday as well. Is that they at the very least had that time to gel a little bit. You'd like to. In years past, Indiana's taken a trip here or there. They did Canada a few years ago, and those kinds of trips can also, accelerate, if you will, that, cohesiveness amongst themselves and that kind of thing. But, yeah, it seems like right now anyway that it does seem, that they do like each other, and that's going to be important because, again, you have so many new faces. I mean, it's not just the freshmen; it's also Evan Fitzner, the grad transfer, and I mean, it's almost like there's more newcomers than there are veterans.
And even you can even consider Race Thompson a new face. He was there all last year, but we never got to see him. This year we will. He's an X factor. He's been getting to work out with Coach Schilling for a year, work out with Coach Marshall for a year without us really getting to see him under the radar. I have no idea what he can bring to the team.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And I mean, when you go down the line, it's just, I mean, who are going to be the odd guys out? You're not going to play 13 guys. I mean, you're just not. So, I think there's a couple of guys you're thinking about in the back of your mind that it may be hard for them to be able to make impacts, one way or the other early on. But at the same time, it's going to be, kind of intriguing, I think, to see how these guys fit in. And I mean, Race Thompson's, one of those guys for sure. Some of these, they're really talking up Jake Forrester yesterday and his attitude and the different things he brings to the table. And you heard from the players about him as well. But boy, I mean, when you really look at that team and you think about, all the guys that you really expect to make, big contributions, when you get down to guys like Jake Forrester and stuff, those are, I think that's when you start getting into some, trying to figure out how this guy is going to fit in and what minutes this guy is going to get.
Yeah, I brought that up a couple of weeks ago. I was like, there's a dozen guys that could play, but obviously that's not going to be the case. And then you mentioned, Archie talked about sacrifice. And I think that they seem bought in on everything as well as a group. But one of the people that stood out to me as far as not seeing them for a while and change was Devontae Green. He was pointed out by Coach Miller, and some of the other players talked about him. But when he was up there, he had this quiet confidence to me that was a little different than last year, at least from just seeing him and in that perspective. And I don't know how that's going to translate, but it sure seems like he has gained a lot of confidence.
Yeah, it's interesting with him because, I asked him when he was up there right before the circus began with the fire drill or whatever was going on about I think it was Juwan Morgan that said of him that, it just felt like he was a lot more under control this year, and that instead of, going for the home run play, he was settling for the singles. And I used those exact words, and he kind of smiled. He was kind of taking it all in. And maybe that is something that he has realized that, for him to be successful on a team that's got a lot of weapons all of a sudden, that, maybe his role is going to change a little bit. And at the same time, I'm sure that, the competition he's getting from a guy like Al Durham is going to be good too. But I mean, there's some talent now at the guard position, and how these guys are all going to get on the court. Romeo's going to get his minutes for sure, and Rob Finney's going to get his minutes. Devontae and Al Durham are going to play. I mean, there's a lot of interesting battles that are going to be going on here, and I thought the same thing though about the quiet confidence. So that's a good way to put that. That's the feel you got from Devontae Green yesterday.
Absolutely, and it's an important position because it's point guard. Still been a lot of questions on where that's going to fall and who's that's going to fall to is the person that's going to have the keys to the car, so to speak, for Archie. Rob Finney obviously coming in, one of the freshmen coming in, but I doubt that he's going to be ready to to assume that role on a full-time basis. So it's going to have to fall to someone like Devontae or Al Durham, who's also made strides. But it looks like to me Devontae really taking that role on and taking it as a challenge, actually, to get better, to do the things that he needs to do to be in that position, to play that point, to run the offense the way it needs to be run, because somebody's got to do it, and he's looking to fill that role.
Yeah, and he, we've seen it with him in the past. No question. The problem with Devontae has always been the consistency level, and he'll be way up and then he'll be way down, and there's just hasn't been enough of that middle ground with him. And I think a lot of people have always thought the same thing about him, is that if he could channel everything and get it all under control, that he'd have a chance to be a pretty good player. And, his role, could be as a scorer, but maybe just as a facilitator and a guy that's going to push the ball up and do some things. I remember, in talking to Evan Fitzner yesterday, that was something he was talking about. The difference between playing at St. Mary's and playing at Indiana is that St. Mary's was more of a half-court offense, where, at Indiana they want to push the ball. And, and one of those guys that's really going to be pushing the ball is Devontae Green. And again, the more that he's able to push the ball and stay under control at the same time, the better this Indiana team's going to be.
Yeah, last year we saw the devastation of not having a true point guard, or at least a good one. What it can do, the offense just can't get off and get going. But no surprises yesterday that I'm aware of that I saw. But everyone seemed to be cohesive. Like I said, a lot of excitement in the program. But we don't get to see them for another month now. The first game's November 1st, so they get another month of working out and getting better. But there are a lot of expectations on this team by a lot of people. Romeo is another one that have you ever seen anyone who is truly more just ice in their veins? He just never breaks character.
No, he really doesn't. And, you've been around him a lot more than I have. And, it probably better than most. But, he just has that look. And, just that, about as even-keeled as anybody's going to be. I think a lot of people look forward to seeing, what happens when he's met with a little adversity or whatever, and how he handles that and that kind of thing. And I'm guessing he'll be just fine. But you're right. Boy, it just seems like they're starting so early this year. They get 30 practices before the first game, and that will start on Monday of next week is when their first I think that's their first official practice. They have Hoosier Hysteria on Saturday night or Saturday afternoon. So that'll be the first chance for the public to really be able to see these guys. And I'm sure you'll be there. And I think it'll be it's going to be a fun team to watch. And different guys talked about it. Juwan Morgan is the perfect example. You look at a guy that, his freshman year when he came in, that was Yogi's team or whatever, and you had Thomas Bryant, and you had OG and the different things, and that was a pretty good team. And then he's had 2 years now where, the last year of Coach Green and the first year of Archie Miller and kind of the transition period. And now here's a guy who's really hoping that his senior year, Indiana's back, near the top of the Big Ten, competing for, whether it's a Big Ten championship or at least a high NCAA tournament seeding position or something. And you just feel like, when you look at the makeup of this team, that they have all the pieces to be able to get there, and now it's just a matter of them, taking those expectations and then putting that all together on the court.
Absolutely, I agree. Terry Hutchens, I appreciate you. You can find him at Indy Sports Hutch, also CNHI papers across the state of Indiana. We appreciate you joining us, Terry. Look forward to it, and have a great trip up to Piscataway.
Yeah, okay. Thanks a lot.
You bet. Terry Hutchens joins us each and every Thursday. We appreciate him, as always. Brought to you by Bubba's 33 of Clarksville, hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer. Bubba's 33 pizza, burgers, beer. Great lineup today. Terry Hutchens was on with us. Make sure you catch that. You can stay tuned for Kentucky Roll Call coming up next. TJ Walker, Nick Roush. For Justin Kalen, I'm Jim Coyle, and I will see you on the radio.